Hi, I'm Colleen Pearl, the Cool Crone, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be about Britney Spears. I did a video in March talking about her conservatorship, and this video is being done because of her testimony that was given on June 23rd. And let's see how that's going to change the whole rigmarole with the conservatorship. So let's take a look at how this testimony may influence the end to her conservatorship. In Britney's testimony, she said that she was unaware that she could file to remove the conservatorship. She said she was forced to take therapy and see a doctor, forced to have therapy in a very public location, forced to keep an IUD in her body, and prevented from marrying again. She was not allowed to be driven by her boyfriend unaccompanied, and she was forced to work sometimes 10 hours per day with no days off. She was also forced to perform when she didn't want to, forced to sign contracts, forced to take medication unnecessarily, and kept on a strict allowance. In addition, her money was paying for her own home, staff, including a nursing staff, her father's home and expenses, her mother's home and expenses, her sister's expenses. I don't know if she pays for her sister's home or not. Legal fees for herself, her father, her mother, and all her court costs. This means that she's paying for lawyers on both sides of the fence, the lawyers who are opposing her with the conservatorship and the lawyers that are for her and advocating for ending the conservatorship. In addition, she pays for all the medical expenses for herself, her father, her mother, her sister. She pays for all the expenses, for instance, if she goes to a rehab or has a hospitalization, or if any of them do, and any procedures for herself, her father, her mother, and her sister. And this is the kicker: the salaries and expenses for all her performers and staff associated with her tours, recordings, rehearsals, and performance. So this does not sound like a person who needs a conservatorship. Let's look at her progressed planets for 2021. I feel that with the moon going over her 10th house and over her north node, that she will be keenly aware that this is a time in her life where she needs to stand up for herself and make her voice heard to her public. She has a boatload of planets going over her natal ascendant in Libra, including Mars, Pallas Athena, Saturn, and Pluto. This is a very strong lineup of planets. Nobody will be able to win against her. She has made her mind up that this is what she's going to do, and she's going to do it. Nobody's going to stop her from this. Pluto and Saturn right there, but plus Pallas Athena, which is all about justice, and it's fueled by Mars. So I don't see how she's going to continue on with the conservatorship after the beginning of 2022. In addition, she's got some other planets down here that are really helping her. The transiting Neptune close to the beginning of her fourth house and opposing her midheaven, which is her career. This is where I see a little bit of trouble. This is where I see that, like she said in her testimony, she thinks that she still needs therapy. Who wouldn't when she's been tortured and put through the things that she's been put through? Of course you would need therapy. But Neptune could also indicate over prescribing drugs or even taking drugs illicitly. It can mean fantasy. It can also mean great artistic expression and higher mysteries or spirituality. And maybe she's experiencing that too during the 2021 planets. I think she's definitely going to be willing to fight back against the conservatorship this year, given all these planets in her first house. I think by year's end, she will be making money again because she's got money planets going on as well. And I think the corruption of the conservatorship will be exposed, at least the corruption on her father's part, and she will be transitioning into a better place in her life. All right, let's look at the transiting planets for the day that she went to court, June 23rd. And she actually physically didn't go to court. I believe she recorded her testimony on Zoom, and it was not supposed to be rebroadcast or heard or shared by anybody except the court. So on the day of her testimony, she had Mars trining the moon, and the moon was in Sag, right on top of her sun. So this gave her tremendous power, strength, confidence, just energy to do this. Remember, this is a person that for 13 years has felt trapped, caged, with no advocate, no helper in sight. She's had all of her friends taken away from her. So her confidence about standing up for herself has really taken a hit. And with this Mars energy coming in and trining the transiting moon, but also trining her natal sun, that's very, very powerful. And then we also had not only the moon conjuncting her sun, but Juno. And Juno is women. It's supposed to be your perfect partner. Now she's making the court her partner by giving this testimony and saying out loud all the bad, dark, dirty things that nobody would let her say for 13 years. So this is a really, really big deal. And Juno needed to be there. Juno is an asteroid, a dwarf planet, and it does show up in people's charts where they need a partner, where they need someone to be that for them. But that's what Britney needed that day. And the reason this is so important is because Juno is also right down here with her sun. So that was really an important planet for her to have come out in full force on that day for her. We also had Mercury trining her actual natal moon in Aquarius, giving her eloquence and allowing her to speak about herself in an intimate way that she is not used to. So most of the time, and plus she's been trapped so much with this conservatorship, most of the time she can't be honest when she's speaking to people. She has to put on a show. So having that Mercury trine her moon allowed her Aquarius moon, which is not very emotional anyway, to finally reveal what was going on emotionally for her. We also had transiting Saturn conjunct that natal moon as well. And this gave her the structure, the organization, the power, and frankly, the platform to give this testimony. I mean, she didn't have to go to court. She was able to be in her home or wherever she did the Zoom. And Saturn gave her the structure and also the gravitas, the maturity, the seriousness, so that she would be taken serious. And that was one of the first things that she said, that she hadn't been out back in court in many years because she didn't feel like people were taking her seriously. Then we have the North Node in opposition to the Sun. So this is not a great aspect for her on that day, but it tells us this, that she felt that her life was at stake, that her meaning of her life, her legacy, her career, her everything was at stake, and her soul. The transiting North Node right now is going through her 9th house, which represents how she feels about her soul and her seeking of truth in this life. And her sun was directly opposite that. Her natal sun was directly opposite that. So I feel that she felt like this was her advocating for herself, for her own survival. Very, very important. In addition, she has transiting Ceres and Aquarius, trining her natal sun, giving her inspiration and feeling that somebody's in her corner, even if it's herself. She has to be in her own corner. And I feel like these planets are also impacting her natal Chiron, which seems to be the sensitive planet when it comes to the conservatorship. It's in her 8th house for other people's money. You bet it's other people's money, other people taking advantage of her money. And that's why I think this aspect is so, so important for the day that she spoke in court. We also have the sun conjuncting her midheaven at this point, activating her 10th house, her career, which she hasn't been participating in for over 2 years. And I feel that this says to us that, and also Venus is right there, I think this says that she really misses performing. She really does want to go back to performing, but she's dug in her heels. She's not doing it if her dad is any part of that conservatorship. And That's got to be taken into consideration, that she's able to make such a hard decision, something she loves as much as performing, that she is stopping because she wants to protest what her father has been doing to her. Neptune is over here at the end of her sixth house, and Neptune may acquiesce to the Uranian power of this day. Neptune will be revealing and sort of blowing open the whole cover of the conservatorship in regards to the crappy treatment they've been giving her. I mean, you got to believe that when Jamie Spears walks into court, he doesn't say, "Oh yeah, I'm making my daughter keep an IUD and I don't want any babies to mess up her performing and stop this gravy train." He's not saying stuff like that when he's in court. He's saying, "I love my daughter, I want the best for her, and I really would do nothing to harm her at all, ever." Pluto is sitting on her natal Venus, which rules her ascendant, and again gives her so much power right at this point. It also means that actually the shoe is on the other foot now. She has the power to make the decisions herself. And notice this, her Pluto with on top of her natal Venus is directly opposite her transiting Venus. So it's emphasizing her femininity. And she said that she wants to have another child and she wants to get married. And the court, I think, is going to see that this is a tragedy that her father is preventing her from doing this. Now let's take a look at the next court date that's scheduled. This is for July 14th, and this was scheduled already, even before the hearing on June 23rd, because Britney had filed papers last year, I believe it was last August, to have her father removed from the conservatorship. So this is not her saying, "Please end the conservatorship." She didn't know that she could do that until recently. This was filing papers to have her daddy removed. And what we have on this day are Mars and Venus conjunct at 20 degrees of Leo, squaring pretty much exactly her natal, Chiron in Taurus, with Uranus transiting right over it. And this Chiron is the very, very sensitive planet that seems to kind of rule her conservatorship in general. So I think that on this day, I think that the conservatorship, the legal team, Jamie Spears, I think they will come out with some sort of backlash against Britney. Either they will say something in the press that paints her in a bad light, or they will claim that she's painting them in a bad light, or they will cancel the date altogether and move on to something else, and they'll blame her in some way. But they're not going to do anything too drastic on that day. And, you know, it would be great if her dad was removed on that day. I just don't see it in the planets. Now, September 2nd is an amazing day. September 2nd is the date that is slated for the end of the conservatorship, as far as I understand it. Now, I could be wrong, and you can tell me in the comments if I have this wrong, but I believe that last year they extended the conservatorship until this date, September 2nd, and I got to tell you, the astrology for Britney on this date is fabulous. It's just great. So she's got, and you saw my little circles draw ahead of time, so let's just start over here. We have Mercury conjunct her Pallas Athena. She's going to be sharp as a tack that day, and she's going to be ready to fight her battles verbally. She is going to be out there, out front, saying what she wants to say about herself. She's also got Venus in the first house that day and Vesta. And so she's going to be looking good. Her Vesta is going to have her being the epitome of motherhood. I wouldn't be surprised if some action has been taken on the conservatorship and she can see her sons freely. I wouldn't be surprised if the whole family is together, maybe even Kevin Federline. Then she's got Mars here, transiting Mars is sitting on top of her Mars. And we have seen in the previous slides how important Mars is to her in getting her point across and in fighting this, because Mars is fighting. That's how you fight. So she's got lots and lots of fight in her on that day. The sun is in her 12th house along with Mars, and the sun is not hitting too much. So having the sun in the 12th house on this day means that she herself, Britney herself, could be able to reveal even more about the terrible treatment that she's had, even more about the back alley kind of shady dealings that have been going on with this conservatorship. Something else that she mentioned in her testimony on June 23rd was that although she did not choose her attorney, he was kind of the last man standing of the legal team that had been selected by the conservatorship. Over the years, she has developed a relationship with him, and he is actually fighting for her. I think that she wants the power to choose her own team, and I think she may be doing this. She may be picking a new team of legal representation as we speak. And September 2nd, she may march into court with the whole herd of attorneys that are ready to fight her corner. That could also be a manifestation of the Mars and Sun in the 12th house, that she's been doing things behind the scenes that are going to illuminate and show people just how bad things are, and they're going to fight for her. Now, Uranus is edging ever closer to Chiron. And once Uranus really hits that, I think it's going to explode. But I don't think we have to wait for that for the conservatorship to end. I think that's more personal for Britney. I think when Uranus really hits Chiron, I think that's when she's actually going to be able to face the harm that has been done to her through the conservatorship, and also face the harm that her family has done to her by not preventing her from being misused at the hands of the conservatorship. So what does the future really hold for Britney Spears? On December 2nd, 2021, Britney's going to turn 40. And at that time, I believe she will either be out of the conservatorship or very close to it. I believe that dramatic changes will have taken place. I do believe her father will be well out of it, and she may be keeping some of it in place to help her manage her business affairs. And I wouldn't blame her for that. She's got a huge fortune, but let's face it, she should have more than $60 million in the bank by now. That's like probably 1 year's salary or income for her over her heyday. And she would have had that money invested by good financial planners, not just frittered away by her dad and all of the rest of her family. By the end of 2021, Britney will be seeing a much different world. She will be getting ready to make money hand over fist. She will be vindicated. She will feel free for the first time in, by then, 14 years. With Jupiter in the first house, she'll also be making so much money just at her own discretion, not by other people making it happen. The progressed Jupiter on her natal chart means that she's going to be making money the whole year. And that will be her choice. She loves performing. And I think she'll go back to performing, but she may expand it. We look at 2022, she continues to make gobs of money, and she's going to stage her own comeback. So even though she will have been performing, she will put on a huge, big event for a comeback. You wait and see. She's going to be in control. She's going to be holding the reins. And in general, I think Britney has a much brighter future. Her earning power for the future is astronomical. Her desire for more children may occupy her thoughts more in 2022. Her desire to get married may be occupying her thoughts in 2022. But mostly, I think, creating music, creating new entertainment, creating children and artistic projects, these will all be favored for her in 2022. This has been a great deal of fun to do. Thank you for watching, liking, sharing, and subscribing. I'll see you next time.